Let's do question one. So here we are given the sales revenue changes at a rate of given by this equation. That is S prime of t equals negative 30t squared plus 380t. And in part A, we have to determine the total sales. That is from t equals 0 to t equals 7. So we write down this total sales, and this is the definite integral from 0 to 7. Since t equals 0 to 7, we put this lower limit as 0 and upper limit as 7. And then we put this expression, that is s prime of t dt. So we can replace this s prime of t, that is 0 to 7 negative 30t square plus 380t. So we have to integrate this and evaluate its value. So let's do that now. So this equals, in fact, we can write down this as two separate integrals. That is negative 30t square dt plus integral from 0 to 7, 380t dt. Now I'm going to factor the constants out of the integral. So in the first integral, we have a negative 30, which I will factor out of the integral. And so we have to integrate only the t squared from 0 to 7. And similarly, in the second integral, I factor only the 380. So therefore, this integrals becomes 380 times of integral 0 to 7 t dt. So we now know that the first integral we have to integrate t square, and in the second integral we have to integrate only t. We use this power rule of integral, that is integral of x raised to the power of n dx, and this equals x raised to the power of n plus 1 divided by n plus 1. So therefore the first integral will become negative 30 t raised to the power of 2 plus 1, which is 3, divided by 2 plus 1, and that is also 3. And this we have to evaluate from 0 to 7. Plus, I put this constant 380 and then integrate the t. Integration of t is t raised to the power of, the power is 1. So it is 1 plus 1 is 2, divided by 1 plus 1, which is 2. And then we have to integrate this or evaluate this from 0 to 7. So let's evaluate this. So this becomes, we can simplify this. I can cancel this negative 30 with the 3 as this goes negative 10 times. And similarly, this 380, I can cancel this with 2 as this is 19 times and then 0. So it is 190 times. Let's simplify before we evaluate this integral. That is negative 10. And this has to be t cube 0 to 7. And this is 190. And this has to be evaluated t squared 0 to 7. Now I'm going to apply the upper limit as well as the lower limit in both the integrals. So this becomes negative 10 times 7 cube minus this is 7. I'm sorry, the lower limit is 0. So it will become 0 cube. And similarly, this will become 190 times t square is 7 squared minus 0 squared. Let's evaluate this. This is negative 10 times 7 cube, which is 343 plus 190 times 7 squared is 49. So this gives, we can plug this into the calculator, and when we do that, we get 5,880. And this is in dollars. So this is the total sales for the first week after the campaign ends. Let's do part B. So here we find the total sales from t equal to 7 to t equal to 14. So once again, this total sales, this is a definite integral from t equal to 7 to t equal to 14. And then the derivative function, that is s prime of t. So we replace the s prime of t, that is from 7 to 14, negative 30t square plus 380t, and this is dt. So we first split this into the two integrals, and I'm going to factor the constant as well. So I can write down the first integral as negative 30 from 7 to 14, and then t square dt, plus I factored the 380 from the second integral. So the limit is from 7 to 14, and then this is t dt. So let's evaluate this integral. This equals negative 30. Integration of t square is t cube by 3 plus 380. We will get the same expression, that is t squared by 2. And this has to be evaluated from 7 to 14. The second one has to be also evaluated from 7 to 14. So let's keep this simplified. So this becomes negative 10 times. This is t squared from 7 to 14, plus this is 190 times t squared from 7 to 14. So here we have to apply the upper limit as well as the lower limit, and when we do that we get negative 10 times. We apply the upper limit, that is 14 cube, minus the lower limit is 7 cube, plus 190 times. The upper limit is 14, and then it becomes 14 squared minus 7 squared. So this equals negative 10 times 14 cube minus 7 cube is 2401, plus this is 190 times 14 square minus 7 square, and this equals 147. So we put this expression into the calculator, and when we do that we get 3920, and this is in dollars. This is the total sales from t equals 0 to t equals 14. I'm sorry, this is from t equal to 7 to t equals 14. Let's do question 2. So here we are given the annual rate of flow is given by this equation, that is f of t equals 160 times e raised to the power of 0.070, and we have to determine the total income over the first 8 years. So we write down this as integral from 0 to 8, and then f of t, and then dt. So let's put this f of t into the integral expression. So therefore this becomes from 0 to 8. F of t is 160 e raised to the power of 0.07t, and then we put this dt. Now I'm going to factor the 160 out of this integral. So therefore this becomes 160 times from 0 to 8 e raised to the power of 0.07t and dt. We now use this formula, that is e raised to the power of ax. This is with respect to dx, and the formula says this is e raised to the power of ax divided by a. So this is a formula which we can utilize to integrate the general exponential functions. So here we know that a equals, this is a 0.07. So when we use this formula, we will put this constant first, and then e raised to the power of 0.07t divided by a. A here is 0.07, and this has to be evaluated from 0 to 8. So now we have to apply the upper limit as well as the lower limit. And before that, we can combine this constant, that is 160 divided by 0.07. So I put this as a quantity, 160 divided by 0.07, and then we will apply this limits only for this exponential expression 0 to 8. So let's do that. So this becomes 160 divided by 0.07 e raised to the power of zero point zero 0.07. We replace t by 8, so it becomes 0.07 times 8 minus e raised to the power of 0.07 times, we replace t by 0, so it becomes 0.07 times 0. So let's evaluate this. Then 60 divided by 0.07, and then this becomes zero point zero 0.07 times 8 is 0.56. So it's basically e raised to the power of 0.56 minus e raised to the power of 0 times 0.07 is 0, and e raised to the power of 0, the value is 1. So I just put 1 here. And then we can plug in this expression into the calculator, and when you do that, we approximately get 1770, I'm sorry, 16, and this is in terms of $1,000. So we write down this is in terms of $1,000. And so this is the total income from the machines over the first 8 years.